This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Thank you for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, where we talk the latest news, rumors, and games of all and everything amazing in football, soccer, sports, everything in general. We got it covered. It's Anthony and I today as we approach my last day of the week. Hello, Anthony. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm sorry I didn't let you introduce yourself there.
It's okay.
I was on a roll.
I understand.
We are Ben-less today, but that's okay. That's when I do my best work, I like to imagine. Today on the sports show, we are going to talk Cowboys Vikings in tonight's Thursday night football game. We're going to talk some baseball news, as we could have a change to something that's been kind of a staple with baseball since about 2002 now.
Yeah, that sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah. And then we're going to talk some college football at the end of this related to Houston now that they are looking for a coach as well, with Tom Herman heading to Texas. So, excuse me, we are going to be talking some rumored favorites for that coaching position. But we're going to start with the NFL and the Cowboys and the Vikings tonight in a Thursday night matchup, of course. Weird. I don't know why they did the switch to NBC this year. That's weird. It's always I usually watch on NFL Network anyway, but I was taken by surprise that it was Al Michaels all of a sudden talking. I was like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
What's going on here? But obviously, both these teams coming off a short week. The Minnesota Vikings playing the Lions, who always play on Thanksgiving. The Dallas Cowboys, a team that always plays on Thanksgiving. As it stands, Dallas is 10-1 on the year. Their only loss coming against the Giants, as we, remember in the first week of the season. And of course, they're undefeated on the road because they did lose that game at home. And then the Vikings, who had such a strong start before their bye week at 5-0, are sitting at 6-5. They are still 4-1 at home, but they are losers of 4 of their last 5. So, and obviously the Cowboys have won 5 straight.
Mm-hmm.
So, personally in this one, we were kind of taken aback a bit, by the ESPN. They have the matchup predictor, and they have the Vikings favored in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess I understand after we looked at their defensive statistics.
Right.
But at the same time, the Cowboys are the best team in football record-wise. They have the best 2 rookies.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that they might be the best eventually. But as of this year, they if when it comes down to the Rookie of the Year voting, it's going to be, in my opinion, Ezekiel Elliott and then Dak Prescott in terms of the voting.
Yeah.
Just because they're playing at the higher level than most rookies are this year, defense or offense alike.
Yeah.
And the Vikings, they have a good defense, but their offense is stagnant. The Cowboys' defense isn't bad. Yes, they're playing at home, but we've seen they can be beaten at home, and the Cowboys are undefeated on the road. So I got to take the Cowboys in this one personally.
Yeah, like you're saying, we were kind of confused before this whole thing started because you look at the things and they have that predictor of who they think will win, and it was Minnesota. We're like, okay, hold on, wait. Yeah, their defense is really good, and it's honestly probably the first time the Cowboys play somebody who actually has a good defense. Because if you scroll through the schedule, the Niners, the Bears, the Bengals, the Packers, Eagles, stuff like that. The only one that's like a relatively good defense, no offense to your Steelers, is
it's okay.
The Ravens.
Hey, believe me, I know.
You have a good offense.
Yes.
Just defense not as, good.
Believe me, I'm aware.
Ever since Ike Taylor gave up all those yards to Tim Tebow, it's kind of been
That
bad.
wasn't only Ike's fault.
I know.
Believe me, there was a lot of fault there. Some slow, middle-aged linebackers, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
I've known that. But
yeah, like
this year, yeah.
So this is the first time Dallas might play a defense that actually makes Dak Prescott look like a rookie or makes Ezekiel Elliott, not look like the best running back in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And, it is at home for the Vikings, which is a good thing for them. But at the same time, like you talked about, they started the season really strong. Everyone thought they were going to run away with the division. They're not even the division leader
now.
Now that's Detroit. They're a game ahead of them. And you got after this, the Cowboys, you have the Jaguars, Colts, and, Packers, Bears. So at least they have a easy-ish schedule to finish off the year. But, they already lost to the Eagles, the Bears, the Lions, Washington, and then Detroit again. They only beat Arizona. That's the only win they have, basically, in the last month and a half. So the only thing we can think of is, A, they're at home, which you always get a little bit of a boost at home, and their defense is really good. So they're just assuming that, at some point, Dallas can't look like this forever. Eventually there's going to be 1 week where Dak doesn't look fantastic. Like, he's going to do that whole, 16-32 for 210 yards and 1 touchdown, 3 interception game.
Well, that's the thing, though, is he doesn't need to do the great all the time because of Ezekiel.
Right.
With the way he's playing. And, you can't – I guess you can't always go in every game betting on your rookie running back. But at the same time – he's having a very good year, obviously.
Well,
it's not like I'm the first person to tell you that.
Sure, but it's not even like they're banking on Elliott. They're banking on the fact that Elliott's a really good running back and that offensive line can block for us.
Exactly.
It's that kind of everything combined. Like, you have that offensive line, which is freakishly good, and you brought in a running back in the top 4 who obviously is super talented, but also that line helps.
That's one thing, too, is this offensive line is very good. But at the same time, this Vikings defensive line is pretty good, too.
Yeah.
They have a way of getting to the ball. Everson Griffin can get in there. You still have Sharif Floyd, who was a first-round pick from a few years ago.
Yeah.
He is out of this game, unfortunately, though, so that's one down. But there's good members of that D-line that do get they do get penetration and they do work well. Chaz Green's out. He's an offensive lineman, but he's a backup lineman, so nothing really too significant there. Obviously, Justin Durant's still out. He's a linebacker for the Cowboys. Safety J.J. Wilcox is out, so that might benefit the Vikings a bit. But at the same time, you have Marcus Sherrills, who's still out. He's a kick returner, corner for kind of a nickel corner for the Vikings. Joe Berger's out, one of many linemen that have been hurt this year. Then, like I mentioned, Sharif Floyd's out. Mackenzie Alexander is doubtful, so the rookie they have, corner they have that comes in the sub packages at times, and he came in when Terrence Newman was hurt.
Right.
He's doubtful, and then Terrence Newman is still questionable. So injuries on both sides of the ball. Barry Church is probably going to play. He's a safety for the Cowboys. Excuse me. So one safety out, but one safety probably going to play. I give the defensive advantage to the Vikings in terms of a better defense, but at the same time, we have seen them look pretty pedestrian at times this year while facing a team that maybe isn't amazing on offense, but can convert third downs and they can move the ball, which is, it's what we've seen them do, just that. So
yeah, and like you said, this whole game being on Thursday, you would think that'd be a disadvantage to one of the teams, or if both of them played last Thursday, so they both have a week to prepare.
Yeah, bless you. For me too, you look at their defenses, excuse me, and yes, the Vikings are one of the best defenses in the league. They're only pretty much allowing 17 points a game, but the Cowboys are only allowing about 19. Yet that's just about what the Vikings are scoring. The Cowboys, on the other hand, are scoring about 28. So something's got to give in that aspect. And then you look at their defenses. The Vikings have been better against both this year. Well, they've been better in a sense. They're not like heavy-handed against the run or the pass, but they're giving up about 100 yards a game, which Zeke was like averaging the last couple games.
Right.
On the other hand, it's a rushing game for the Vikings. You really don't have to worry about, and the Cowboys are only giving up about 81 yards a game. So the Cowboys defense isn't something to look past either in this one. It's going to be an interesting one, honestly. Obviously, it's a home game for the Vikings, and their new pretty stadium kind of looks like an aircraft carrier to me. It does. It really does. But you guys have to talk about it tomorrow, because I'm surprised this one is kind of favored to the Vikings. I get it at home, and I get their defense and the way they play football kind of can negate the way the Cowboys play football, but I still got to give it to the Cowboys in this one. I'm not saying they can't lose, but when a team's 10-1, you got to give them that respect at least a little bit. It's not like they got given that record. They have that record for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
So I have the Cowboys.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. They can lose, believe me, but
yeah, because even if you're going to say something like the Cowboys had a close game against Washington, and maybe that's why they're worried, but Minnesota lost to Detroit, so it's one of those things of just like, they didn't look good, but neither did the Vikings. Yeah, so it's just kind of a weird thing all the way around.
Well, of the last 5 games, they have had some close ones.
True.
The end of the day before Halloween, they beat the Eagles 29-23, so only 6 points there. They beat the Steelers, only by 5. They only won by 10 against Baltimore, but it was more of a handed 10,
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, the closer-ish kind of game against Washington because of the late touchdown, but it didn't really do much eventually.
Yeah.
They played in close games all year, so I could see this being close. I could also see the Cowboys just converting more often, and just winning the game purely based off of averaging the conversions because the Vikings have had a lot of offensive issues like that this year.
Yeah.
Both quarterbacks playing well, 18 touchdowns to 2 interceptions for Dak, 12 to 3 interceptions for Bradford. The big difference, though, is the running game. So
yeah.
I think that's what's going to lead them to a victory tonight.
Yeah, same here.
All right. Well, that is our preview of Thursday night. We're going to go ahead and take a break and come back and talk baseball in a second. And, of course, you guys will be back tomorrow to discuss the outcome of that Thursday night football game.
Yep.
All right, so let's take our first break, and we'll be right back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And we are back here at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Anthony, go ahead and introduce our next bit of news.
All right, so we have, something that's been a key in baseball for the last little over a decade. With baseball, All-Star Game, we've always had something where you wanted it to matter, right? You always had it to where, or at least baseball did. They always wanted it to matter more than just like, oh, we're playing the game, because the whole thing with the Pro Bowl and the NFL was one of the things where it didn't matter. It was one of the things where
it's really one of the only All-Star games that had a reason to win. In a sense.
You would have
besides your bonus.
Right, because in 2002, I believe you had the thing where it was a tie game. And you got the, infamous video clip of, Bud Selig kind of throwing up his, arms like, I don't know what you want from me, and the game was tied. And ever since then, they were like, all right, we can't have that again. That's embarrassing. So let's make it to where, the winner of the All-Star game, be it AL or NL, that team that makes it to the World Series, you get home field advantage, which people like, people don't like. But at the very least, it actually made people talk about it, and it made it relevant, made the All-Star game a relevant thing to do. Because outside of that, the only things you remember from the All-Star game as far as baseball goes are like Pete Rose running into Ray Fosse, or the steroid era stuff where like Griffey and everybody else were just destroying baseballs, McGuire, Sosa, all like that. So now you actually had something to watch. Well, now it's looking like they're taking that away. It's looking like that's not going to be the case anymore. Now they're just going to go back to the regular, have an All-Star game. Cool, this team won, fantastic. Let's go home. Mm-hmm. And this is going to obviously make some people really happy, and some people there are some people that I've known that actually do like it because it just, like you said, it gives it some relevance. It makes the game matter.
Mm-hmm. I like it for that reason. You know what I mean? So many All-Star games, football All-Star games, in a sense, are a joke because they're not played the same way football games are played. They're not played with the same intensity. Basketball, it's like, a shooting spree out there. There's parts of basketball people like that aren't scoring. With baseball, you can play, and it's a benefit of the style of game. You can benefit it. Or you can benefit by it because you can play a legitimate game of baseball, in the street with your friends at the same level you'd play at a park, So
as long as you're not throwing out the pitcher's arm or something like that,
exactly.
You can basically have the same kind of feel of the game.
Yeah, and that's why they use the pitchers the way they do. You know? And I've always liked it because it gives it a reason to be played in a sense. Yes, there's a reason because it's an All-Star game, but it gives it relevance because no other All-Star game has that. The MLS All-Star game I don't think has it. Obviously the NFL All-Star game doesn't matter. It's at the end of the year,
right? And that's the other thing, because it's so late in the year, and you're going to have that in between the Pro Bowl or in between the AFC and NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl, and so you don't have the
certain players don't play.
Yeah, the players that are going to Super Bowl are like, no, I'm not playing in that, and possibly tearing an ACL beforehand,
or literally just playing a football game the week before the Super Bowl.
Or literally playing, yeah.
And then the NBA that doesn't matter in a sense either, So
right.
Personally, I've always enjoyed it that way. I thought it's made for reasonably significant outcomes.
Yeah. I was always okay with it when it happened. Like I was like, this is weird, but I was like, okay, cool. It makes it fun, makes it interesting. But then once October came around and it was actually the World Series, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Why did the Giants get the World Series? Because they won. Okay, that always seemed like a really weird thing. Like later, in the All-Star game, I was like, oh, okay, fine, I can deal with this. But then once the World Series actually hit, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Even though they had a better record, they get it because dude hit a home run in the All. Like there's always like a weird thing because you get some person who has no ties whatsoever to the playoffs, determining.
You mean like 2012 when Melky Cabrera was the MVP of the All-Star game, and then they let him go, and they ended up winning the World Series without him anyway. Mm-hmm. So a guy that wasn't on their team was responsible for them having home field advantage for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I mean, honestly, I think All-Star Weekend for baseball is the best All-Star Weekend there is. I like it more than basketball because basketball has it has the skills competition, the slam dunk, the three-point contest in the game, but the game to me is a joke.
The game is what happens with the game is basically for the first 3.5 quarters, they're like, yeah, that's fine. You do whatever you want to do, but then they care once it's close.
Yeah, and then it ends 140 to 137.
True.
It's a joke to me in that sense. The baseball game is always much more entertaining. You have the home run derby. You have the celebrity softball game. There's so much going on in that weekend. Yes, same thing with basketball, but
of all the quote-unquote gimmick, let's call them, gimmick whatever things, which one is like the home run derby your favorite thing between the baseball, basketball, all those kind of like three?
I love the home run derby.
That's your favorite? That's your number one?
Yeah, the only thing I would like more is if they still had the NFL skills challenges when they were down there, and they would do like the quarterback challenges or like the guys that were benching outside. Casey Hampton put up like whatever the weight is they do at the combine. He put up like 39 times.
There's some like linemen that just put up stupid numbers. Like if you put like Ndamukong
it was Hampton every year.
Yeah, no, there's some of those guys. And like if you put like Haloti Ngata in his prime, or if you put like I said Sue now, or if you put like any of those like Vince Wilfork, just all those dudes,
JJ Watt,
like all those giant dudes. It's just like how do you lift that? Like you just kind of look at them sideways, like okay, that's scary.
You scare me. Yeah, you're a big human.
But yeah, no, that was always fun too. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't. Is it a for sure change or is it a rumor?
So it's being it's been reported.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not for sure if it's actually going to happen. They're just kind of like throwing it out there, like this might be the thing, probably just to gauge fans' reaction, kind of a thing. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. I personally don't want to change. I like how it is. Mm-hmm. Real quick, a couple of other changes that are rumored. An international play plan is apparently a part of the new agreement that includes a payment schedule for potential games in Asia, Mexico, Latin America, and Britain, in addition to the U.S.-based special events such as the July 3rd game between Atlanta and Miami, in a specially built ballpark on a military base in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. That's cool. I have not heard of that yet. Actually, that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And then there's a DL change possibility, too, that's going to possibly allow teams to make quicker decisions on whether to bring up a roster replacement rather than wait and see if the injured player would be ready to return to action in less than 2 weeks. So it gives them that time. Mm-hmm. Personally, those changes, that's fine. The All-Star game, which has been since 2003 because 2002 was the last year they did it. It used to just alternate. I personally like it the way it's set up. I like it. You win, you get home field advantage for your league because it gives them something to play for. A lot of times those guys from some all-star teams are in contention. At all-star break we saw the Giants, the Cubs had a lot of players representing. All of them had the possibility of being in the World Series and indeed made the playoffs. And one of those teams won the World Series. So you look at that. You look at players on the Indians squad. Whom got home field advantage because of it.
Right.
It's an advantage for them, obviously. So even the Cubs ended up winning the World Series despite not having home field advantage. They took advantage of the games they played at home. So I personally want to keep it that way. That's how I want to. And then real quick on the DL story, it was players and management agreed that the minimum stay on the disabled list will be reduced from 15 days to 10. So that's what that is about.
Okay.
Personally, I'm fine with those two. Just don't change the All-Star game. That's me. That's my vote.
Sure. Yeah, I'm fine with it. Like it always seemed like kind of a weird thing, so I'm fine with them changing it. But you probably should find something else that's kind of a halfway, meet him halfway kind of thing because
yeah, but I don't know what that would be.
No, that's the thing. You've never been able to figure out what that actually would be.
Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see where they go from here. But of course, I'd like to have this conversation with Ben too. So maybe we'll talk about this again next week.
Yeah.
Until then, let's take a break though. Let's take our last break, and we'll be right back to talk a little bit of. Excuse me, I had a yawn there. A little bit of college football news here, and then end the show. So we'll do that real quick here, and be right back at the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
And we are back here at the Golden State Media Concept Sports Podcast, and we're going to end the show talking about college football and Houston. Now they have a opening at their coaching position. Is being reported by sources, of course. That's how they do it here in the sports.
Right.
Sources
yes.
reporting that Lane Kiffin and Les Miles are the candidates for the Houston's job opening.
I love it so much.
It makes sense too. The former coach and one of the top coaches currently looking for a job now after being released from his contract with the LSU Tigers.
Right.
They have been contacted about Houston's head coaching vacancy, and that is purely based as a rumor right now, but that's how it stands. A source quoted as saying Les Miles has always recruited Texas, while he was obviously a head coach at LSU in Oklahoma. He's recruited in Texas and has friends in Houston, so it could be what Miles is looking for. Houston Board of Regents Chairman Tillman Fertitta, that's a cool name, told the Houston Chronicle that Miles is under consideration because, what are you going to say? No.
Right.
If somebody asks you about him, he's kind of the best coach available based off of, former success and such.
Mm-hmm.
He was quoted as saying, "I think we have some interest in him, and he has interest in us." I'm not saying he's number 5 on the list or number 1 on the list. He's just on the list.
On the list.
And then you look at Kiffin. Kiffin is also apparently a top choice to join the LSU coach Ed. I'm sorry, I started to say the names at the same time. Sorry, Coach Ed Ogeron, as the Tigers' offensive coordinator. That would be interesting to go from Bama to LSU, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
They asked the Baton Rouge Advocate reported last week, when asked specifically about Kiffin last week, Orgeron said, all I'll say is I'll try to get the best coordinator in football. As of right now, that might be Lane Kiffin,
right?
With how he reinvents offenses to the personnel he has.
Yeah,
he may not be a great head coach, but he's definitely a good offensive coordinator.
Yeah, that was the thing with Lane. You give him a little bit of power and stuff like that because when he was at USC, he wasn't the main guy when USC was kind of at the rise. At that time he was a tight ends or wide receivers coach, but he was still a part of that team. He was still an offensive side, and then when he was offensive coordinator, they're still a really good team. It's just once you give him full control, full power, that's when it kind of goes south, whether it was Tennessee or USC or even with the Raiders and the NFL.
Yeah, especially the Raiders in the NFL.
It was it's not even, I don't think that's even his fault. I think that's more just Al Davis at the time and the Raiders and everything like that. But
okay, fair enough.
He is the equivalent Lane Kiffin is of the guy at work who he's really good at one thing. If let's say it's a restaurant or something like that, he's really good at customer service. He's fantastic. But as far as okay, now you need to do computer stuff, and he just looks at it. He's I don't know what this is.
Computer stuff.
I don't know what this is. You guys update all the stuff like that, and
isn't that for the students to do?
Just
be weird with it.
Isn't
that for the kids?
He just looks at him this. I don't know what this means. This is a lot of stuff right here. I'm not doing this. Although that would be but Lane Kiffin, he's one of my favorites because he somehow fell up every single time. He got the Raiders job, he was awful at that. Got the Tennessee job, he was worse at that. Yeah. Then he got the USC job, and they basically left him. Did the thing of basically you can't come home. We are not sending you home. I know we paid for you to come down here.
Don't come home.
You are not coming back with us. We are leaving you at the airport.
I like that.
And then he went to Alabama, and now everything's fine again.
Yeah, which at the same time, I feel if they were willing enough to hire him. No offense to him, I'm sure he does a great job.
Mm-hmm. Saban.
It's Saban. It's
I think Kiffin
it's not all
helps.
Saban,
I think Kiffin helps, but I think he's the younger brother the thing that is just like the older brother's like, yeah, give him a job. That's fine.
Yeah, try this, bro.
Sure.
Try this, big bro. He's like, okay, stand over there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I'm not going to take all credit away from.
No,
he's there's a reason Lane Kiffin is the offensive coordinator at Alabama. And
right. If he was bad at his job, I'm pretty sure Saban would have fired him by now or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's that. But
and then you get Les Miles on the other hand, former LSU, I should say, head coach, and that whole situation was weird this year. Basically, like he was going to be fired last year, and then they're like, "No, bring him back. It's fine." Which
he can turn this around.
You probably should never do. Like if the report's out that you're gonna fire the dude, you should probably just fire the dude. Like if there's, let's put it like this.
Texas.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Like if exactly. Charlie Strong was like, yeah, you gotta go. Yeah. I understand that you have to go, but it's like the thing of like, how can I phrase this like metaphorically? Okay. If you're dating somebody,
yes,
and it's kind of on the rocks. And it's kind of known as like, yeah, you're probably going to break up. You should probably break up with the person. Like, you shouldn't, like, extend it for another, 6 months because that's just going to get a lot of resentment and people are going to be mad at you, which is what happened with Les Miles. And then he got there this year, and they stunk, and then they fired him. So they basically just left him for, another 6 months, and they did the exact same thing. Now you got Orgeron as a head coach, and he's doing, a good enough job. But it was just a really weird situation this entire year for him. Now if he goes to Houston, like you said, he's always been in that kind of area, Texas, Oklahoma State, LSU kind of area, and that where he can recruit. So I think he'll probably be fine there. Mm-hmm. It's just a demotion, I guess, going from the SEC to now you're going to Houston, which isn't in a major conference.
Yeah, well, you're also jobless. So
true, I guess.
Take what you can get.
Beggars can't be choosers, kind of thing.
Yeah, I personally, I think I would go less on this one personally. I would go. Less is more, and I'll go Les Miles.
I see what you did.
What I did there?
I see what you did
there. You're welcome, man.
I didn't say thank you.
Oh. You're still welcome.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to say it for me to feel it.
I understand.
So, personally, yeah, I would go Les. I think he's a little more, probably a little more established for the position at this time.
Sure.
I think it'd be better for him maybe and better for Houston to take him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'd be in a little better spot. So.
And if he can do well there, he'll get another, big head coaching job.
Yeah, potentially. Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll go less on this one personally.
Yeah.
I don't know where you'll go.
No, I'd go less on this one too, just because he has a national championship. Like that, I understand it was basically with Nick Saban's players.
Hey,
still.
Whoa. Hey, Lane Kiffin has a national championship too.
Yes. But not as a head coach.
No, not as a head coach.
He has a couple national titles, actually, if you're going to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll go Les Miles, personally, just because of the experience as a head coach at a big level, And like they said, he can recruit in Texas well. So, yeah, I'll give it to Les.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. I think it'll be Les.
Also, a person with knowledge of the process told the Chronicle of school plans to contact West Virginia coach Dan Holgerson, too.
They're going to do it.
And he's highly unlikely. I feel like they're doing their homework.
And that's the other thing, too. They'll look at basically all the top kind of schools. And
and they'll look at their offensive coordinator and their interim coach as well.
Right. They'll throw flyers out, if all of a sudden in a couple days or whatever, if, Bob Stoops gets his, face caved in by Oklahoma State. They're like, oh, there's rumblings. And they'll go talk to Bob Stoops. And all that's being said with Houston. By the way, Oregon will also go after all those dudes also because they want to have some –
if Oregon's smart, they will throw every bit of money they have at
Chip
Kelly.
Yeah. They just like, Chip, it's okay. You left.
Bring him home.
Come back. It's okay. Come back here, please, because once you left, this all went to hell.
Yeah, exactly. Regression at the top level, but that's not for here nor there. Tomorrow, you guys will be back to talk Thursday night football.
Yep.
And preview the Pac-12 championship game and maybe the Western Michigan game. They're playing Ohio. Not a big deal as MAC,
Sure.
But, yes, tomorrow is the Pac-12 championship game, Colorado, Washington. So I know you guys will recap tonight's game, preview tomorrow's game, and probably some of the championship games on Saturday also, with the Big 12 championship game, quote-unquote, with Oklahoma State, Oklahoma.
Right.
We have the SEC championship game with Alabama and Florida. And don't forget Clemson and Virginia Tech in the ACC. So lots to talk about. Not to mention the Big Ten championship that's not featuring the teams that are in the top 7.
So weird.
Well, actually, Wisconsin 6 and actually Penn State 7. So the top 7, not the top 5.
But not top 5.
Between Wisconsin and Penn State. So you guys will talk about all of those, and I'm sure possibly many more. But that is it for today's show. We'd like to thank you so much for listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Ben will be back tomorrow. I believe Jeremiah joins you on Fridays as well. And, of course, Anthony will be here.
I will.
So until then, for Ben, I'd like to thank you so much for listening. I am Alex.
And I'm Anthony.
And they'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you guys on Monday. You have a good weekend and enjoy your sports.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.